Unit 5B, Lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to further work with circles. We're going to derive the equation of a circle given the center and the radius using the Pythagorean theorem. And then we're also going to use the process of completing the square to find the center and the radius of a circle. We've already gone through the standard equation of a circle in the past. It's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equal to r squared. The ordered pair HK represents the center of the circle, and the value for R is the radius of the circle. Next, we're going to go through the process showing why this is the standard equation of a circle, where this comes from, using the Pythagorean theorem. Suppose we have a basic circle. Our center is the ordered pair HK. We have the radius of the circle, which is R, and then we just have some arbitrary point on the circle, xy. We can construct a right triangle representing the y distance and the x distance. So using these 2 points, since this is a horizontal line and this is a vertical line, if we're trying to find the horizontal line, it's just going to be the difference in the x values. So we could take x minus h, and that will be the distance from this point to our vertex of this triangle. This vertical distance would be represented by y minus k. Because we're not changing our x values at all, this distance is only represented by the change in the y values. So now that we have expressions for the 2 legs of the right triangle and the hypotenuse, we can use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. So we would have x minus h, that quantity squared, plus y minus k, that quantity squared, equal to the radius squared. So that is how we come up with the basic equation, the standard equation for a circle. In this example, we want to use the information to write the standard equation of the circle. We're told that the center of the circle is at the point -2, 7, and the radius of the circle is 6. So now we just have to take these known values, substitute them into our standard equation for the circle. So we would have x minus a -2. So x minus a negative value is the same as x plus 2, that quantity squared, plus y minus 7, that quantity squared, equal to 6 squared. Now, the only thing you might see in standard form is if they have this value squared at the end, they could simplify and rewrite this as 36. It doesn't matter if you leave this as 6 squared or rewrite it as 36. Just understand when you're trying to identify the radius, what information you're provided. Now we finally get to the fun example. We're going to use the process for completing the square to find the center and radius of the circle. So we're going to get a little help from T-Swift. So we have the equation x squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 4y minus 1 equal to 0. So we want to rewrite this using completing the square to get it into standard form so we can identify the center of the circle and the radius. The first thing we want to do is rewrite this equation so that our x terms are by each other and our y terms are by each other and the constant is on the other side of the equation. So after we rewrite this, we get x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 4y equal to 1. Notice we have our x terms lined up, our y terms together, and the constant on the other side of the equation by itself. So now we're going to focus on our x terms, find our b over 2 value and square that so we can complete the square, and do the same thing for our y terms. Focusing on those 2 terms, find our b over 2 value, square that so that we can complete the square on this portion. So we have x squared plus 6x. We're going to take our b value, which is 6, and divide that by 2. So we get 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And we're going to square that quantity. If we add that value on the left side of the equation, we need to add that value to the right side of the equation as well. So we need to add 3 squared. Now we need to use that same idea for our y terms. We're taking our b value, which is -4. So -4 divided by 2 is -2. And we're squaring that quantity. if we're adding that quantity on the left side of the equation, we need to add it to the right side as well. Now, once we add those values, we should be able to factor each of those terms down. So since we had an x squared, we know this is going to be x. Our b value was positive, so this will be positive. And our b over 2 value is 3, so this will turn into x plus 3, that quantity squared. Now if we do the same thing for our y values, if we have a y squared, when we break this down, factor it down, it's going to be y. Our b value was negative, so our middle value will be negative. Our b over 2 value is negative 2, so we can think of this as minus 2. And we have that quantity squared. Now we need to simplify the constants on the right side of the equation. We have 1 plus 3 squared is 9, and negative 2 squared is 4. So 1 plus 9 is 10, 10 plus 4, this is equal to 14. So now we have the standard equation of the circle. We should be able to identify the center and the radius of the circle. So if we're looking for the center, if this is positive, this is the same as x minus a negative 3. So we have negative 3, and y minus our y value of the center of our circle is going to be 2. So the center of the circle is at negative 3, 2. And the radius is going to be, we have to take the square root of this value because this represents r squared. So the radius would be radical 14. So just under a length of 4. So now we're going to go through one more example, very similar to the last one. Use completing the square to rewrite this so we can identify the center and the radius of this circle. So just like last time, get our x terms together, y terms together, and the constant on the other side of the equation. So now we have x squared minus 8x plus y squared equal to negative 7. Now we focus on our x terms and complete the square. So we would have x squared minus 8x. And then we're going to add our b over 2 quantity squared. So negative 8 divided by 2 would be negative 4, that quantity squared. Plus, we have a value of y squared. That is the same as y minus 0, that quantity squared. So essentially that's already in the form we need it to be. It's just that our value that we're subtracting is 0. So in simplified form, we just write that as y squared. So we don't even have to complete the squared for the y terms. Equal to negative 7. Since we added this value on the left side of the equation, we need to add it to the right side. Negative 4 squared is 16, so we need to add 16 to the right side of the equation. The reason we added b over 2, that quantity squared, is because it creates a quadratic trinomial that we can factor. If this was x squared, this is going to be x. Our middle term is negative, so this will be minus, and then we have 4. So that factors down into x minus 4 quantity squared plus y squared equal to negative 7 plus 16 is 9. So now we would identify the center of this circle, which is going to be at, excessive parenthesis, going to be at 4, 0. And the radius is going to be 3. Remember, if this is our value, there's no squared on it, we need to take the square root. The square root of 9 is 3. So just a quick review of what we talked about in this lesson. First, we discussed how to use the Pythagorean theorem to come up with that standard form for a circle so that we can quickly identify the center and the radius. And then we went through the process of completing the square so that we can rewrite a given equation for a circle in that standard form so that we can quickly identify the center and radius.